Welcome to Stitch and Sprinkles. So today I'm going to show you how I made this really cute pink cowgirl hat, complete with these little feather details on the side. This is quite a simple felt-in project and I really enjoyed it, and I hope you do too. So to make my cowgirl hat, I have got a little bit of core wool, I've got some light pink wool, I've got a little bit of a slightly darker pink, I've got some white and pipe cleaner and my selection of needles. So to start, I'm going to grab my core wool and I'm just going to roll this into sort of a bit of a bean shape, really, keeping it nice and firm. And then I'm going to grab my needle and just felt this round. I'm not actually turning this over and doing the underneath side at the moment. I'm just trying to get a rough shape on top. And the reason that I'm doing this is because in a minute I'm going to grab the light pink to make the base of the hat. Okay, so as you can see, it's flat on one side, but then there is this sort of what I'd call a bean shape on the top. It's slightly fatter in the middle and more curved, and it goes round. As you can see, it's got that sort of arch shape to it. And as I say, it's thinner at either end. So next up, I'm going to grab some of my light pink. Just try and work this into a rough round shape. Peeling this off and moving it round, poking in the edges to try and create a round circle, like a flat disc. Okay, once you're happy that you've got a roundish shape, next up you want to grab kidney bean. I don't know why I've just called it a kidney bean, but so I can see that this size circle is going to be way too small for the size of the top of my hat. It's okay probably in the width, but I need to add a bit more to either side. To try and bring it out a bit. Now, I'm happy with this sort of size to start with. We can always add more to it. So I'm going to grab my larger felting tool and just go over this. Because ultimately we want the rim of the hat to be flat-ish. Now I've just grabbed my single needle and I'm going to go back to poking in the bits that spread on the outside. And then work that round. And then I'm going to pop my bean shape in the middle. Don't worry that it's not all perfect at the moment, and I'm just going to attach this to the base of the hat. which will work well because we didn't felt the bottom of this before. And now I'm just neatening up this, the top of the hat and the shape of it. But as you can see, that's attached really well now. Okay, so next up, I am going to grab some more of my light pink, and I am just going to place this over the top to make the hat all the same colour. All I'm doing here is I'm just going around the edge to neaten up the shape a little bit. You don't have to do this now. I just like to do this. So I'm keeping a rough shape. So I just add some more, just building it up. But what you want to be careful of is you don't want too thick a rim. Okay. We also want to work on the height of our hat because you do want some height, or I do want a bit of height to it. So I'm going to place a bit more of the pink over it. Pushing it in round the outside to secure that. And then I'm just going to go over and felt the rest of it over the top to maintain the shape. So I just want to work on my shape of the hat a little bit more. And I'm just going to refine this a bit with my needle. So keeping it the highest point here, so it's like a half circle sort of shape, and then rounded edges. I'm just adding a bit more because I can still see some of the core wool coming through. Just grabbing my spiral needle now to sort of go over the top and make sure it's all secured on nicely. And then I want to create a dent through the middle of the top of the hat. So I'm just going to use my single needle and go backwards and forwards. It doesn't go right down the sides, but it comes forward to about that point on the hat. Hopefully you can see that. So at this present moment, what it's reminding me of is like a coffee bean. Right, And then when you're happy with that, now it's time to start working on the rim of our hat. I'm just grabbing my multi-needle tool and I'm just going to try and flatten this all out. And this is where we want to start trying to refine the shape, and any of these bits that are poking out here, I just want to go round but be careful of your fingers when you hold it. Sort of hold it back a bit from where you're doing it so that you don't hit your fingers or catch your fingers with your needle. If you've got any holes like this, just grab a bit more of your wool and just felt this on. But just do a little bit at a time. At this point, I'm not stabbing it too aggressively so that it's going right through my felting. I'm just doing it so that I know that it's gone through to the bottom layer, because ultimately all I'm going to do is end up felting this onto my mat if I'm not careful, and then when you pull it up it just goes all fluffy. So I've just turned it up the other way now just to felt the underside too. Now I'm grabbing my single needle and I'm going to go around the outside, poking that in. Now you can see that the size of this is starting to even up round, and that's what I'm trying to create all the way round. Okay, so when you're sort of happy with the size of the rim, next up we're gonna just bring this round slightly more, narrowing the gap here but keeping it still wide here and rounded at the tip. And just working over the top part to get rid of any fluff that's sitting there. And then I'm just going to work on my top of the hat shape as well. I'm just going to try and define this ridge in the middle a little bit more. All I'm doing here is working from the middle part up and out to try and create a slight V. Just keep checking your shape to make sure it's looking even. Use your fingers if you need to pinch your shape in a bit, and then just work your needle over it to define it and hold it in place a little bit more. All I've done there is just pinched it at the front a little bit. And then I'm going to look at what it looks like when I curl the sides up. Now this is still looking too wide on the brim, so I'm gonna push that back just by pushing my needle in, and then create a finer line down here as well, down this part. And just keep coming back and checking how it's going to look when we start to roll up the edges. Now, I'm quite happy with the size of that brim. Round the back is okay size-wise, so I'm just going to neaten it up. Make sure that rounds nicely and that you're happy with that. I mean, it does stay a little bit if you just curl it round your fingers, so you can get an idea, and I'm quite happy with that. So next up, I am going to get some of my white. And then work out how much I need, which is about that. And actually, I'll use my needle there to hold that in place, and then I'm going to split this into 3. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this up the other way, and then it'll be easier for you to see. So what I was doing was working out roughly how much I need, which is around about here. Use my multi-needle to hold it in place, and then I'm going to try and split it and plait it. Now I'm going to check this around the hat to make sure it is long enough, which it is. And then I'm just going to felt the ends of this together. Turn it over. And I'll just do the same with the part where I began. Actually, before I attach the plait, I'm going to get a little bit of my darker pink, and I am just going to felt this round to create a bit of a band, because I think actually once we lay the white on that, it's going to give a nicer contrast. Then once you're happy with the thickness of your darker pink band, if you've decided to go with that, next up we're just going to put on the bit that we've plaited and sit that through the middle, and then you just need to decide where that is going to join. I think I'm going to join mine at the side here, because once the curve is rolled up, it's going to be easier to hide. So I'm going to do it at the side, but towards the back. And then I'm just going to felt the plait on gently through the middle of the dark pink band. I'm just going to trim off this bit here. And felt the end in. And then bring this round and just slightly overlap it. And then trim it off. And just push in the ends. And then if you want to tweak the top of your, if you feel it's not as straight as you'd like it in places, the darker pink, then you can just go round and neaten that up if you want. And then once you're happy with your shape of your hat, you can just, if you need to, just go over. If you feel it's still a bit fluffy on the rim, then you can just go back over it with your needle just to take away, reduce some of the fluffiness of it. I'm sure that's not the proper term for it, but anyway, I'm not claiming to be an expert. And then we can just roll up the sides and just felt those round. You're not felting it into the actual hat, you're just sort of gonna go round the shape to try and get it to curl a bit at the edges. As you can see, that side's starting to curl nicely now. Just do a little bit of work on this side too. As you can see, that's curled up nicely now. I'm really happy with that. Last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a pipe cleaner and a bit of my darker pink wool, roll this round in my fingers. And just cover this pipe cleaner in it. Just felt that on. And felt some on either side. No, I don't want this too thick. Just going to trim that a bit below. And then I'm just going to trim off round the edges to try and make it like a feather shape. Then I'm just gonna felt that on. the side of the hat. Then I'm just going to grab some more of my pipe cleaner and some of my white and wrap this round. And then again, just fold that back over. Then let's turn it over because it's a bit hard to see the white on that side. Grab a little bit more for the other side. And then again, I'm just going to try and trim this off. Trim off the pipe cleaner to start with. And then just trim this round to try and create a feather like detail. And then just put that one on the top there and felt it on. Just think about where they're positioned and where you want them to sit before you fully felt them into place. And as a little finishing touch, I might grab a little bit of my light pink, roll this up in my fingers. And just felt a really tiny little ball. And just felt that in and make it smaller, just to secure everything into place. And then once you're happy, we just go back to curling the sides again, just to make sure everything's holding where you want it to go, or where you want it to sit. Pull those down. And there we go, we've finished our pink cowgirl hat. I really enjoyed making this and I'm pleased with how it's turned out. I hope if you give this tutorial a go that you're happy with how yours turn out. Let me know in the comments below how you got on. If you enjoyed this, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up and give this a like. And if you want to see more, please hit subscribe. I'm also going to link to the video for the pink Cowgirl boot because I think the two of these go really well together. And if you've got any other suggestions for tutorial ideas, please leave them in the comments below. Thank you.